Hey y'all, welcome back to Let's Talk About It with Courtney. I am your host, Courtney Carroll. I'm your licensed therapist here in Washington State and North Carolina State. I am your connection coach and, of course, the host of Let's Talk About It with Courtney. Welcome back. I think it's been a week. How about y'all? I'm excited to record. I tend to take time during the week to think about what will happen or what's the topic this week. And I've been realizing I like to record on Thursdays or Fridays just because I feel like I get more of the vibe or, what's a good word for it? More of an idea of what's going on, not just in the world, but with my clients and social media and everything that kind of gives me an idea of what to talk about. Go figure, right? And if you're tuning in, this is your first episode. Thank you for coming and joining. If you haven't been in, I say this almost every time. I am just a regular therapist in Washington State. I am new at podcasting as of a few months ago. I still get nervous. Everything I talk about is straight off the tongue, just like I would enter a session, which means there's no teleprompting, there's no real plan outside of the topic. So I just kind of trust my intuition, my gut, and go into that. So I hope you are ready for the ride if you haven't been before. And if you are a regular subscriber or listener, thank you so much for your support. And thank you for the DMs. Thank you for the likes and comments. Thank you for always letting me know if it resonates with you or doesn't resonate with you. I don't get paid for this. This is something it's a gift to not only my clients, but all those around me that one either can afford therapy or two, of a friend or a client of a client's family. And I've been asked so many times over the years, can you help my friends in different states? Or, pricing for therapy is expensive and it is an investment. I'm well aware. So I created this podcast to hopefully put good information out there, good content out there, in hopes that it helps. So that is the goal of the podcast. So thank you again for joining. So I thought a lot about this and I kept getting the word like freedom in my head. And I'm like, dude, what does that mean? Because I have a few clients that are in the midst of divorce or about to start separation. And I of course, am divorced and have gone through a separation and a major breakup in the last couple years. And I thought about, instead of always looking at the hard stuff, which we all know, and if you've listened to the episodes before, I have been as vulnerable as I've ever been in my life, like opening up my heart and my experiences with y'all. It's easy to get distracted by the heartbreak, by the devastation, by the loss of a relationship, and it's very hard to see the light or the silver lining, as a lot of people would say. I know. And by the way, if you are like 1 month in of your breakup or divorce or whatever, this doesn't necessarily apply to you, but I want you to pause this and maybe save it for a month or two from now. So keep that in mind. Or just as I always say to my clients, pick what you like in this. If you don't, let it go. Whatever you like resonate with, take what resonates and leave the rest. Okay. And again, if you're new into this, you just might not be there yet, and that's okay. I know a month after my separation, I wasn't ready to have anyone really tell me the good stuff that comes later. I would have probably told them to fuck off, if I'm being perfectly honest. And if that's you, you can say fuck off. It's fine. I promise. So freedom after the breakup is like my working title. You'll see when I put everything up on what I actually do. And earlier I was actually thinking of freedom of the situation. So because I talk a lot about divorce, breakups, and heartache, like doesn't mean you can fill in the word of freedom of like breakup with maybe a change of career, maybe a friendship change, maybe a move. I moved across the country to North Carolina with my ex-husband, and I had to grieve leaving Washington. I think it's so funny that I'm here now, but I struggled moving to a new state. And if you weren't aware, or some of my closest friends would say, I hated it. I mean, hated North Carolina for a good year, maybe probably like 10 months. In my defense, there's a lot of bugs there. cockroaches, before I moved there, my only experience or exposure to cockroaches were literally like TV and like hoarders houses. So like, no. We don't really have poisonous snakes in Washington, at least Western Washington, especially like water moccasins. Yeah, learned about those. I remember my ex-husband and I, we used to kayak a lot in Washington. So of course we took our kayaks out to North Carolina when we moved out there. And I remember he took me to this like local lake, and y'all, it was brown. And I remember like looking at it, kind of glaring. I'm like, what is this? And he's like, what? I'm like, why is the water brown? He goes, it's clay. It's just like what's under the water, Courtney. And I think we were only there for a couple months. Y'all, if you've been to a Washington lake, we don't have brown lakes. Maybe brown rivers, but like that, it's a river. We don't really like swim in them either. At least I don't. And then he's like, hey, Court, watch out for the snakes. And I remember thinking, what? And he's like, yeah, there's water moccasins. I had never had heard of a water moccasin in my life. Never. I'm like, there's snakes in the water and it's brown? He's like, yeah. I think I lasted like less than 20 minutes on that river. And I think I was on guard the whole time. And yes, if you are listening and you're from the South, then you probably think I'm ridiculous. I am. I'm aware. Thank you. So that's a perfect idea of a move or a different situation that you weren't ready for and didn't see the outcome, didn't see the silver lining. I learned to love North Carolina. And if someone would have told me in those days where I was hating on that state, I wouldn't have believed them. I'm like, you guys have humidity, the bugs here are outrageous, there's poisonous things, and your water's brown. Another side note, if I've never said this, like I remember we went to like the mountains for I think it was our anniversary trip, and we went to Asheville, which is beautiful. But I remember him telling me, we're gonna go to the mountains. And if you're from Washington State, specifically from my area, I'm from Puyallup, Tacoma, Washington, we have a beautiful view of Mount Rainier. And often like the Three Sisters are out and everything. I'm thinking I'm gonna go see a mountain. I did not think I was gonna talk about this. Y'all, I got there, they were hills. They were green. I didn't really understand. And I think he laughed at me the whole time. There's so many like memories there. There's some good stuff in my last marriage. There was some funny memories, and I love that. And I think I'm not just thinking, I'm grateful for them. But I remember how unlike North Carolina was to Washington. I kept trying to make North Carolina Washington. And North Carolina was never going to be Washington. It just wasn't. And again, I was in such a weird place at that time. And if you aren't familiar, we moved there to 2019, 2020. What happened? COVID. And if you haven't listened to one of my episodes, my mom died. My uncle died. It was a rough year. I couldn't work. So I don't think North Carolina could have done anything to let me love it at that time in my life. But what I can say now, the silver lining of my time there, is I've met some of my best friends there. I love the beaches there, the people there. It's just so different. And I met some of my favorite mentors, teachers, friends, and I found a love for the South I never thought I would have, and it became home. Oftentimes it's weird right now, I think of North Carolina as home. And, whether I move back there or I stay in Washington or whatever comes in the next year of my life, I am so grateful to have had that time and to have love, because right now I think I have two homes. So I want to go back to my topic, freedom from the situation, freedom from the breakups, freedom from what? Maybe even freedom from what you thought was going to be. And I just think freedom is such a beautiful word. And I love that. And if you're not watching from the US, I know I have some people in other countries, and holler at your countries. I see you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments. I did get some comments from Africa, South Africa. I see you. Thanks for being here. And every other country. If I missed you, I'm sorry. In America, we have this thing of freedom. We celebrate 4th of July. And gosh, I think of the American flag a lot when I think of freedom. And I was a military wife for 11 years, 13, almost 13, 14 years with my ex-husband. And he was in the military. And I just think of like how much pride of freedom that includes, and the cost of freedom of what I've learned over the years. But I never really applied freedom of my life or freedom of what's to come. You know, we get stuck in hard spots all the time. You can get stuck in grief. You can get stuck in a life situation that you don't understand. And particularly, like, I can easily speak to about my divorce. I never thought I can't wait to get divorced. I never thought I can't wait to divorce my husband, the love of my life at the time, right? I never thought, oh, I'll get divorced one day. And for a lot of the time, I thought like hell not to. You know, so many years actually. And again, if you're in that breakup, you're like, I don't want to see the freedom. I don't want to see that silver lining. I don't want to see the good, Courtney and Carol. And I don't blame you. But the thing is, there's a lot of good that comes later. A lot of good. And if I was anyone else, maybe a different therapist, I would just stay in the pain and the ache in there. But I have come to the other side of it. I kind of picture like a rainbow, and like I've come, and what do we need for rainbows? We need rain and water and dark. Like I picture like a gray cloud. My daughter and I saw a double rainbow a few weeks ago or a month ago, and the sky was dark all day. And then as I was walking to grab her, I saw a double rainbow, and I rushed to go get her. I was so excited to show her, and showed it to her, and her eyes got big. She's almost 5, and she's like, wow, Mom, did you know it has to rain to get rainbows? And I just like, oh, yes, baby girl, I do know that. And if it wasn't for the rain and the hard, we wouldn't get beautiful things. And we don't always see the beautiful things that's to come after heartache. And I don't often quote anything biblical or religious. I find myself to be more spiritual than anything. But from my understanding, a rainbow is a promise of good things to come, of a promise for more. And that is what freedom is to me. I'm thinking of a couple clients, one in particularly that I remember telling her, she's in the midst of a divorce, married for decades, and I can just remember saying, because I had been separated for a few months, or maybe, you know, and I reminded her, I was like, you know, I never knew how to say this, but you're going to feel lighter and different in about 3 to 6 months. And she wasn't in. She might be like you, where you're out there, it's fresh meat, like freshness and gosh, what's so, like vulnerable, exposed, raw. That's the word. You probably feel really raw. Or if you're a little past it like me, you can remember the raw feelings, right? And when you can recall the raw, you're like, oh, like my stomach gets nauseous, my heart started racing as soon as I remember those feelings. Because there's so many days in that time period where I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? How is this going to work out? This was nothing I planned. This was not supposed to happen. And as I told that client, and as I remembered later, it was like 3-4 months. It was before Christmas of my separation. And I remember like breathing easier. I was losing weight. I was starting to feel good. I was sleeping better. Like, do you see, like, I just took a big sigh. I just like remember like, I didn't realize that I guess I reached content. I reached like, aha, like I exhaled, and I'm like, life's gonna be good. And and I know some people can't relate to me because I'm a mom and maybe you don't have kids. I don't know if it's easier, to be honest. I don't. I do have a beautiful privilege of being a mom, and just knowing that I think my daughter is in the other room playing, and I could hear her play. I'm replaying it in my head right now. And I remember thinking, we're going to be okay. I don't know how, but we're going to be okay. And I felt at peace at home. And when I talk about my stuff, this is not to devalue or talk smack about my ex, because believe it or not, nothing about this is about him. This is my journey and my story and how I connect and relate to clients. But I didn't realize how bad my marriage was until I was out of it. I remember, like, a friend of mine, we were at her house in a pool swimming, and she was trying to explain to her girlfriend about why I'm divorced or getting divorced and separation. And I remember, like, the stories that would come out about, like, pointing out my weight issues, pointing out, like, to suck it in, pointing out that things weren't flattering, and different things. And part of me, listening to her talk to and explain, I think it was my first time hearing it when I wasn't in it, you know? It was like an outer body experience almost. And I remember thinking, well, one, I was a little mortified. I was like, oh my God, I let someone talk to me and treat me that way? What? Because I never, when you're in it, you don't really know how bad things are. And I just remember thinking, fuck, I'm so glad I'm out of that. And I think that's why I started breathing easier. I swear that's why, like, weight came off, like, stress, my cortisol levels went down. I was seeing a functional doctor in Southern Pines, Pamela Bennett. She's amazing if you ever need someone. And my levels were going down. My stress was going down. Everything was getting better. I didn't realize how on guard I was. I didn't realize, like, my stress level was to be in that relationship. I didn't realize the toll of everything that I had gone through. And that's not even just speaking about him. That's like moving across the country, becoming a mom. It takes almost 2 years for a woman's body to balance out after giving birth. And sometimes even longer when you had a C-section, which I had. I had an emergency C-section 3 weeks early. And which, from my understanding, it could take 2.5 to 3 years to rebuild. And I just remember, why can't I get my body back? Why can't I do this? I want to be better. I want to do these things. And having that echo in that relationship, wanting those things too. Because if I did this, then maybe everything would be great. And if that's you and you've been in those relationships, or maybe you were the perpetrator, or maybe you were the person thinking, maybe if they just, which I want to remove the word perpetrator, maybe you were the one acting it out. Because I don't always think people do things out of malicious content or malicious effect or malicious intent. That's the word I want to use. And a lot of it's out of love. A lot of it's like, maybe this would fix it. And maybe that's my ex's thing. I have no idea. I'm not him. Maybe if Court lost that weight, maybe if she became more sexual, maybe if blah, 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 it will get better. And, I don't know. But I remember thinking, maybe if I did this, maybe if he changed this, like, it would get better. The fact is, like, after the breakup, and when my test scores are showing me, like, my cortisol levels are lower, my weight's getting on track, I'm sleeping, I have energy, that relationship wasn't the best thing for me. And I'm sure I wasn't the best for him. And it's hard when you're in the beginning of a relationship. Like I said, that first 3 months, if you're watching this, like, I'm not necessarily speaking to you, but again, pause, listen to it in 3 months, put a reminder on your calendar. I was never excited or motivated to see what was to come or what I would get out of the breakup. Does that make sense? I never thought there was freedom coming from my divorce. And even my last relationship that I was engaged to, I never saw freedom from our breakup. I never thought, oh, I can't wait to break up with him, change everything I just did, and be excited about it. But the fact is, freedom comes. And freedom can look like anything you want it to be or anything that it is within you. Mine is joy, laughter, peace, calmness. If you're not familiar with body regulation, emotional body, that can be a podcast episode, but basically when your body's regulated, and again, like my test scores were showing me I was regulated, things were getting good, and when your body is regulated, it can process information, you can make better decisions, when you're emotionally regulated, which is a huge thing that I strive for and that I actively work on every day. And probably the hardest thing I've ever worked on, because don't want to say I've completed, because I do get emotionally reactive sometimes, but I try to pause and then regulate and see what's going on. I could have never stopped to regulate in those first couple months and think that there's going to be really good things that come from it. I hoped so. I remember praying in my kitchen after kicking my husband out and being like, God, you better use this. Like, I hope I can use this for the good of whatever, because I am a therapist. Like, I hope one day you'll, and by the way, if you're not a believer in God, like, fill in God with whatever you believe in, spirit, universe, Buddha, whoever. I'm not focusing on that word, but I was even speaking to the universe. I'm like, or even to myself or my higher self. I mean, like, I can't go through this for nothing. And that was the only thing I knew to be true. The only thing I knew to be true. But I never thought that would be a good thing, or I hoped it would be a good thing. But I never really got that freedom word that I'm like talking about today. I never thought, because I didn't think I was trapped. Like, let's be real. I just thought, like, I'm getting a divorce. This sucks. I don't have my best friend anymore. My breakup, just moved across the country. I thought I was starting a life with someone, planning a wedding. I made a lot of changes to be in that relationship, both physically, financially, physically moving wise. And again, that breakup, I was like, God, I hope I got here for a reason. I hope I'm supposed to be in Washington for a reason. But now that I'm out of it, I think my breakup with my most recent ex was like 9 months ago-ish, 8 months ago. I learned a lot. And the fact is, I have choices, just like you do. I can choose to stay in the dark, in the, I don't know what the right word is, like in the ashes. I can stay where I think nothing's going to happen, nothing's good going to happen, because honestly, that place is comfortable. Is it comfortable for you? I'm assuming it might be. And gosh, misery likes company, I'm thinking of in my head, and it does. But when you are able to ask yourself, do I want to stay in this anymore? I think that's what changed for me the most last 2 months, is I'm surrendering control of a situation I have no control in. I'm trusting the universe to show me what I'm supposed to do. And I know, at least from experience, because I did, before this big breakup, I was married and got divorced. Like, I know good things come from it. I really do. I know there's a freedom in breathing in my home and not forcing a relationship to work, which I am right now. And which, when I was talking about that client, I was like, I was told her and him, there's a few that I'm actually thinking of, like, and I remember telling them, I know this sounds weird, but in 3 to 6 months, you're going to be in your house. And for whatever reason, you're going to do that exhale. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not on edge anymore. I'm not pressured to do anything. I don't have to force or make something work. I'm free. I was never caged or tied up or anything or forced to be in a relationship. I chose to do it as well. And what I'm so grateful for my first marriage is that I learned when things get bad to not stay. And maybe you're considering a breakup. Maybe you caught my podcast because you're like, I'm not sure about this guy or this girl or this dynamic I am. If you're unsure, the answer is you don't want it. Unless you're scared, and that's a whole other reason, okay? If uncertainty is an answer. And maybe you just need to step back and say, what would peace look like? What would freedom look like? Because there's beautiful relationships out there. I work with them and I have witnessed them. I work towards them. That you don't have to force yourself to be anything besides your authentic self. To be who you are. To be with someone. And I wouldn't have known that until I became single and learned that peace comes from one within. And I know that sounds cheesy. Again, if I was like post 1 month separation Courtney, I would say fuck off. But there's so much freedom in the future. There's so much freedom in the future after breakup, after loss, after grief. Because you are in charge of whatever you want it to be. And if you want to breathe easier, stop forcing things. You know, one of the number one ways that women die specifically is heart disease, because we force ourselves to stay or make things work. We do all the time. Or we get heartbroken and devastated every time the partner didn't show up for us, and then we wonder why women die from heart disease. It's wild. I've witnessed men have low testosterone, low libido, have erectile dysfunction, and just being in a low, dark place. And as soon as they left their relationship, within 6 months, most of those things came back. Because they were just in the wrong relationship. Your health and your future is in the freedom of the future. You know, it's not supposed to always be hard. And I am not saying, I am a couples and sex therapist and a coach, of course, but I know that our body cannot withstand constant chaos, or else it either breaks itself down or forces us to look at something. For the longest time, I struggled losing weight because I had high cortisol levels because I was in a relationship that was unhealthy for me. And then when you're out of it and you lose weight, and I remember my friend saying, you know, it's crazy how that happened. And it is. And I don't know what it is. I've been a sex therapist for, 7 years-ish. I have seen when either a relationship corrects and gets better and get a better place, libido comes back, attraction comes back, which, by the way, not all relationships that struggle should break up. And I'm not talking about that today, but you know who I'm talking to. I trust you. In your gut, you know if I'm talking to you or not talking to you. And the fact is, forcing yourself to do anything isn't freedom. Whether that's staying, going, or whatever else is going on in your life. Whether this is a job. I literally had clients losing hair because they stayed in a job that was unfulfilling and awful, and they had colleagues and work treat them terrible. And they left and got a new job, and their hair was growing back. She's like, got energy. He's like, I've never felt better. And there is freedom to come, just like the rainbows are promised after the rain. I want to thank you for joining me this week. I hope this is helpful. I hope you can feel the freedom that is to come if you so allow it, if you choose you. And I know that's hard to do. I hope you realize when you see a rainbow that it didn't come without a storm or rain or gray clouds. I hope you see that there's more to come.